Hey everyone, and welcome back to CrimePod Castle.
Yeah, welcome back.
Today we're diving deep into a case that shook a quiet New Jersey town back in 1922.
1922, yeah.
It's a story full of forbidden love, jealousy, and secrets.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So picture this. We're in New Brunswick, New Jersey, tree-lined streets, a peaceful community where everybody knows each other. But then on September 14th, a gruesome discovery shatters that peace.
Oh, yeah.
The bodies of Reverend Edward Hall, a respected minister,
Yeah.
and Eleanor Mills, a charming choir singer,
Right.
are found in a field under a crabapple tree.
Under a crabapple tree.
And it's not just any field.
No.
It's known as a lover's lane, adding another layer to this already intriguing case.
Right.
The scene is unsettling. Love letters scattered around the bodies.
Love letters everywhere.
Eleanor's scarf carefully placed across her face. It's like a scene straight out of a detective novel.
It really is very staged.
This wasn't just a crime of passion.
Right.
This was something more, something calculated. So who were these two people? Edward Hall, a man of God, leading a seemingly upstanding life,
Right.
and Eleanor Mills, a married woman, also a member of the church, entangled in a secret, passionate affair.
Forbidden love.
This double homicide sent shockwaves through the community,
Absolutely.
exposing the underbelly of secrets and lies beneath the surface.
It's fascinating how a single event can shatter a community's facade, isn't it?
It really is.
Forcing everyone to confront the truth that things are not always what they seem.
Exactly. Welcome to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Crime series,
Yeah.
where we're diving deep into the Hall Mills murders, a case that captivated the nation.
Yeah, and it still has people talking nearly a century later.
It's a story that asks, what happens when love, desire,
Right.
and secrets collide?
Yeah, and collide in such a dramatic fashion.
With a double homicide in a seemingly peaceful town.
It makes you think about all the hidden lives, the secrets people keep.
Right, and the lengths they'll go to protect them. So let's start with the victims themselves. Their affair was no small matter.
Oh, no, not at all. Especially in the 1920s.
Right back then. Infidelity was a huge scandal.
Huge.
Society just didn't tolerate it.
No, not like today.
And for a minister
Oh, especially for a minister.
to be involved in such a thing, it was unthinkable.
His entire life, his reputation, everything could have been destroyed.
Exactly. That's almost like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, it really is. Hubris and downfall.
So their affair was a ticking time bomb. And it seems like someone lit the fuse. But the question is, who
Yeah, who wanted them dead so badly?
and why?
Right. Why stage the scene like that?
We'll unpack all of that and more as we dig into the investigation,
Right.
the suspect,
All the twists and turns.
and the trial that gripped the
Hey,
nation.
buckle up, folks.
This is going to be a wild ride.
A wild ride through the heart of a scandal.
So let's start by unraveling the complicated relationship between Reverend Hall and Eleanor Mills. What do we know about their affair?
Well, their surviving correspondence, like love letters and such, they reveal a lot, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their feelings were much deeper than just a simple fling.
It wasn't just a physical attraction, then.
No, it seems they were deeply in love.
Deeply in love, huh? It changes things.
It does. It adds another layer of complexity to the case.
Absolutely. So we've got a forbidden romance, a double
A
homicide
small town,
filled with secrets.
and a killer lurking in the shadows.
Where do we even begin?
Let's start with the victims themselves. Edward Hall, pillar of the community, right?
Right, a respected minister.
And Eleanor Mills, seemingly living an ordinary life, married with children.
But beneath the surface,
They shared this passionate secret world.
a world that ultimately led to their demise.
It's a classic tale, really. Forbidden love, betrayal, and ultimately tragedy.
And the crime scene.
Ah, the crime scene. It's almost as if the killer wanted to tell a story.
Right. It wasn't just a murder scene.
There's a statement.
It was like a stage,
Exactly.
carefully set to send a message.
But what message?
That's what we need to figure out.
Right, what was the killer trying to say?
All right, let's take a closer look at that crime scene.
Okay.
Paint us a picture.
It was brutal, but also very deliberate.
What do you mean?
Well, Edward was shot once in the head. A clean, efficient kill.
Makes you think it was someone who knew what they were doing.
Possibly, yeah. But Eleanor, her death was much more violent.
How so?
Her throat was slashed, and her tongue nearly severed.
Oh my gosh, that's horrific.
It was a rage killing, full of anger, and perhaps a desire to silence her?
To silence her.
Maybe she knew something. Or maybe the killer wanted to make sure she couldn't reveal anything.
That's a chilling thought.
It is. And then there are the details.
The detail.
The love letters strewn around them.
Right.
Almost as if the killer wanted to expose their affair, to make it public.
Even in death.
Even in death.
And her scarf placed so carefully over her face.
Almost like a final act of tenderness. Or maybe an attempt to hide something.
Like what?
I don't know. Maybe a wound. Or maybe just her identity.
So many questions.
So many questions.
And so few answers.
That's the nature of this case. It's a puzzle.
A puzzle with missing pieces.
Exactly.
So who did the investigators initially focus on?
Well, almost immediately, suspicion fell on Edward's wife, Frances Hall,
Frances?
and her 2 brothers.
Interesting. Why them?
Well, Frances had a reputation. Some considered her to be difficult.
Difficult.
Yeah, strong-willed, and definitely not happy about her husband's infidelity.
So the classic scorned wife.
It's a familiar narrative, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And her brothers. Well, there were rumors that they were very protective of her.
So protective that they would kill.
It's a possibility. Family loyalty can be a powerful motivator.
So we have a potential motive. But was there any evidence to link them to the crime?
That's where things get murky.
Murky.
The investigation was plagued with problems from the start.
Like what?
Let's just say that the police work wasn't exactly CSI level.
Okay, so maybe not the most competent investigation.
Right.
But surely they had something.
Well, there was a key witness, a
Oh,
woman known as the Pig Woman.
the pig woman.
Yeah, her real name was Jane Gibson, and she was a pig farmer who lived near the murder scene.
Okay, so what did she see?
She claimed to have seen Frances Hall and her brothers arguing with Edward and Eleanor on the night of the murders.
Wow, that's pretty damning.
You would think so, right?
Right.
But her testimony was riddled with inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies.
Yeah, she changed her story multiple times. It was hard to know what to believe.
So an unreliable witness
And a crime scene that seemed deliberately staged,
to mislead.
maybe to protect the real killer.
It sounds like this investigation is about to get very complicated.
Oh, it gets much more complicated.
We'll dive into the messy details of the investigation and the shocking trial that followed.
Right after a quick break.
Stay with us. All right, we're back, and we're picking up where we left off with the Hall Mills murders, a tale of forbidden love, betrayal, and a botched investigation.
It's a case that just keeps on giving.
So we left off with a pretty unreliable witness and a crime scene that seemed staged. What other evidence did the investigators find?
Well, there was a torn piece of a man's coat found near the bodies.
A coat.
Yeah, and
I couldn't definitively link it to anyone.
so a dead end.
Pretty much.
And the murder weapon.
Never recovered.
No smoking gun then, literally.
Nope.
But with all the suspicion around Frances Hall and her brothers,
Right.
the investigators must have felt like they were getting somewhere, right?
Well, the lack of concrete evidence didn't stop them from building a case against Frances.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How?
They theorized that she was enraged by her husband's infidelity,
Understandably.
but with the help of her brothers, she planned and executed the murders.
To protect the family name.
That was their theory.
It's a pretty bold accusation,
It is.
especially without solid evidence.
But the motive was there.
A wife scorned.
And protective brothers.
It does fit a certain narrative.
But is it enough to convict someone?
Well, that's what the trial is for.
There was a trial.
Oh, yeah. 4 years after the murders.
4 years.
It was a media sensation.
I
The
bet.
entire nation was watching.
Waiting to see if justice would be served.
The spectacle.
So, Frances and her brothers finally had their day in court.
They did.
What was the defense's strategy?
They went after the prosecution's case. Hard.
How so?
They attacked the credibility of the pig woman.
Ah, the star witness.
Right. They pointed out the inconsistencies in her testimony, suggesting she was motivated by attention.
Or maybe even money.
Possibly, yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time a witness was swayed by financial gain.
True.
So they discredited the witness? What else?
They painted a very different picture of Frances.
Oh.
Not a vengeful wife, but a grieving widow.
A woman of faith and dignity
Exactly.
who had been deeply wronged.
They appeal to the jury's empathy.
A classic courtroom tactic.
It can be very effective.
So what was the verdict?
After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury found Frances and her brothers not guilty.
Wow, not guilty. That must have been a shock.
It was. Public opinion was divided.
I can imagine.
Some people were convinced of their guilt, while others believed they were innocent victims.
So the case remained unsolved.
Officially.
But that doesn't mean the speculation ended, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
The rumor mill must have been working overtime.
It was.
Did any other suspects emerge?
Some people pointed the finger at Eleanor's husband, James Mills,
Really?
suggesting he might have been motivated by jealousy.
That's an interesting angle. We haven't talked much about him.
He was a quiet man, kept to himself.
But appearances can be deceiving, right?
Absolutely.
So we have a scorned husband
A potentially vengeful wife.
and protected brothers.
And a whole town full of secrets.
It's like a tangled web.
And we're trying to untangle it.
So where do we go from here?
Well, there were other theories, too.
Like what?
Some involved other members of the Hall family, disgruntled parishioners, even whispers of a connection to organized crime.
Wow, it seems like everyone was a suspect.
At some point, yeah.
But without any solid evidence.
It's all just speculation.
So are we left with a tragic love story
Hmm.
and no resolution?
Not necessarily.
Oh,
There's another theory,
tell me more.
one that's gained traction in recent years.
I'm all ears.
It suggests that the murders were random,
Random.
a robbery gone wrong, maybe committed by someone just passing through town.
But the staging, the love letters,
I know it seems unlikely,
it does.
but the initial investigation was so flawed, it's possible they overlooked evidence that didn't fit their narrative.
So you're saying the real killer might have gotten away with it.
Because the investigators were so focused on Frances and her brothers, they missed other possibilities.
That's a chilling thought.
It is.
To be victims, not only of a crime, but also of a flawed investigation.
It happens more often than you think.
And the media frenzy
Oh, yeah, that didn't help.
shaping the narrative for decades.
It's a reminder that truth can be elusive,
Especially in high-profile cases.
where everyone has an opinion,
And the pressure to solve the case.
can be immense.
So the Hall Mills murders, a tragic love story, a botched investigation, and a mystery that endures
It's a case that continues to fascinate and frustrate.
in equal measure.
It makes you wonder about all the secrets that small towns hold
And the lengths people will go to,
protect them.
even if it means taking a life.
It makes you think about the impact on the families, the community, everyone caught up in this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. The media's role in all this is, well, it's a whole other story, isn't it?
It was a different time back then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Newspapers had so much power. They shaped public opinion, and they weren't afraid to sensationalize things.
Even if it meant bending the truth a bit.
Oh, for sure. Accuracy wasn't always the top priority. It was all about the scoop, the headlines.
So, did all that media attention help or hurt the investigation? It's hard to say, really. But all that scrutiny, that pressure to solve the case quickly, it probably didn't help.
I bet it made things harder for the investigators, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Witnesses might have exaggerated their stories, hoping to get their 15 minutes of fame. And the police, they might have felt pressured to pin the crime on someone, anyone, just to quiet the public outcry.
So in a way, the media frenzy kind of overshadowed the real tragedy, huh?
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the mystery, the speculation. But we can't forget that 2 people lost their lives.
And their families, their friends, they were left to pick up the pieces.
It's heartbreaking, really. Their reputations were tarnished, their lives turned upside down, and the community, well, they were left with this sense of unease, like something dark had happened in their midst.
And the mystery lingers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No one was ever held accountable.
That's right. We're left with all these unanswered questions. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Do you think we'll ever know the truth about what happened to Edward and Eleanor?
It's hard to say. After all these years, it seems unlikely that new evidence will surface. But you never know. Maybe someone out there knows something they've kept hidden all this time.
It would be amazing if, after all these years, the truth finally came out.
It would. It would bring a sense of closure, not just to the families, but to everyone who's been captivated by this case.
But even if the mystery remains unsolved, their story continues to fascinate us, doesn't it?
It does. It's a reminder of the power of secrets, the complexities of relationships, and the dark side of human nature.
And it teaches us a valuable lesson, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About not jumping to conclusions.
Absolutely. We have to be careful about letting our biases and preconceived notions cloud our judgment.
And we have to remember that every story has multiple sides, multiple perspectives.
That's right. The Hall Mills case is a perfect example of that. There are so many different interpretations, so many different theories.
And ultimately, we may never know the whole truth.
But that doesn't mean we can't learn from it.
So what's the biggest takeaway from all this?
I think it's the importance of empathy. We have to remember that behind every headline, behind every true crime story, there are real people who have suffered real loss.
It's a reminder that truth can be elusive and that justice isn't always served.
But it also shows us that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure.
Well, that's a powerful message to end on.
It is, and it's a message that we should all carry with us.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into the twisted world of forbidden love, betrayal, and unsolved mysteries, be sure to follow CrimePod Castle for more explorations of history's most captivating crimes. We release new episodes every week, so hit that subscribe button and join us on our journey into the dark side of human nature. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for exclusive content, including crime scene photos, archival footage, and interviews with experts. We've got a ton of great stuff over there, so be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and as always, thanks for listening.